From buildings and roads to robots and spaceships, humans are pretty good at building things. We're pretty good at destroying things too. When you read the Bible, you might be surprised how many passages of scripture are about construction projects. There are verses upon verses giving dimensions, details, and descriptions of physical buildings, most notably the temple. God gave the people of Israel detailed instructions for building a temple of worship. When the temple was destroyed, it was a source of extreme grief, anguish, fear, and doubt. Seeing the temple rebuilt became a frequent and extremely important prayer for God's people. They were desperate for the temple to be rebuilt and spent centuries praying, hoping, and waiting for that day to come. When Jesus came into the world, people were looking for a Messiah who could rebuild what had been destroyed, physically by rebuilding the temple, and spiritually by rebuilding the relationship between people and God. When Jesus began his ministry on earth, he announced he had come to set people free, physically and spiritually, but that's not all he came to do. Early in Jesus' ministry, he made another shocking and confusing declaration, and we read about it in John chapter 2, verses 12 to 21. After the wedding, he went to Capernaum for a few days with his mother, his brothers, and his disciples. It was nearly time for the Jewish Passover celebration, so Jesus went to Jerusalem. In the temple area, he saw merchants selling cattle, sheep, and doves for sacrifices. He also saw dealers at tables exchanging foreign money. Jesus made a whip from some ropes and chased them all out of the temple. He drove out the sheep, the cattle, scattered the money changers' coins all over the floor, and turned over their tables. Then, going over to the people who sold doves, he said to them, "Get these things out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a marketplace." Then his disciples remembered this prophecy from the scriptures, "Passion for God's house will consume me." But the Jewish leaders demanded, "What are you doing? If God gave you the authority to do this, show us a miraculous sign to prove it." "All right," Jesus replied, "destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." "What?" they exclaimed. "It has taken 46 years to build this temple, and you can rebuild it in 3 days?" But when Jesus said this temple, he meant his own body. So what is going on here? Jesus, a faithful Jewish man and teacher, seems to be destroying the temple God's people held so sacred. At least they said they held it sacred. When Jesus sees what's happening in the temple, he's angered by it. You see, it wasn't just the fact that things were being sold that made Jesus angry. He was angry because people were being taken advantage of, especially those in the most need. In the past, the temple was a place where people could connect with God. And in the future, Jesus was declaring he would be the source of connection between God and humankind. Israel asked God to give them a new temple, thinking it was the only way to be close to God again. But God had a better idea. Instead of building another building that could be destroyed, God created a brand new way to be near us. It wasn't a building, but a person, Jesus. And a brand new message that Jesus came to rebuild what was destroyed, and it's something so much better than a building. Jesus came to rebuild our relationships with God.